Hey fashion lovers, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Joanne Ada, and if you are new here, this is the right place for you to learn how to create stylish, well-fitted clothes with ease. Today I'm super excited to take you on a journey from beginner to pro in cutting the perfect pants trouser. If you've ever struggled with measurements, choosing the right fabric, or getting that perfect cut, don't worry, I've got you covered. So in this tutorial, you will learn the essential measurements you need for a well-fitted trouser, how to select the best fabric for the different types of pants that you want, and pro techniques to ensure a clean, accurate cut every single time. So by the end of this video, you will have the confidence to cut a pant trouser like a pro. So grab your fabric, your measuring tape, and let's get started. Oh, don't forget to like, to subscribe, and to hit the notification button so that you will never have to miss out on sewing tips and tricks. Now let's dive in. So the first thing you need is your choice of fabric. So I'll be using a chinos fabric for this cutting to show you guys on how to cut a trouser. Even though you're a beginner or a pro, this video will help you a lot. So I'm going to fold my fabric into two and lay it out, then use iron to properly smoothen the roughness of the fabric so that I could get my measurements accurately to avoid errors. So I'm going to roll out to start the beginning of the finish line, and these are the measurements I'll be using for the cutting of the trouser. So take note, you need all these measurements. If you are going to use your own, make sure you get the measurement exactly. So I'm going to get the length of the trouser, which is 41 that I'm using, and I'm going to add 1.5 for seam allowance. That is the maximum you can use because it does the seam allowance at the base of the trouser does not need to be much. Then I'm going to get my tie line. The tie line for waist 38 is 11.5. So I'm going to be showing you guys ranges of crotch measurements that you can use for different kind of waist. Then I go ahead to measure my knee line, because I'm going to be taking every measurement lengthwise before I take my width measurement. So I go ahead to measure the calf line. The calf line is always 5 inches or 6 inches below the knee line, depending on how the length of the person's trouser, how tall the person is. So this person is 41, so I'm using 5. But if it's longer than that in trouser length, then you can use 6. Then I'm going to roll it out properly so that I can get my width measurement for it. Please make sure you follow up in this video and do exactly like what I'm saying. But if you can watch the video and you can understand it properly, then go ahead to cut the trouser to your own size. So I'm going to mark 1 inch at the selvedge, because this selvedge we don't add it to the trouser when you're making your trouser pattern. We don't do that, especially when you're sewing pant trouser, so that your work won't be rough and it will neat. They don't need to add that in your trouser cutting. So I've added 1 inch at the selvedge to remove it later, because I will cut it off and you'll see it. So I'm going to mark the length of my pockets, which is 7.5. Then I mark 3 strokes from my 1 inch at the tie line. This is for shape, and that is where I will start my tie measurement from. So I marked it and marked 3 strokes too from the waist side. So I go ahead to mark it. Then I'm going to bring out the shape from the waist side to the pocket line at 7.5. So I'm done doing that, and I'm going to go ahead to measure my waist measurements. My waist measurement is 38, and I'm going to divide it by 4, which will give me 8 9.5. Then I add 1.5 inch for seam allowance. Then I go ahead to the tie line. The tie line is 28, so I marked 14, because you're dividing it by 2, and add 2 inches inwards to get the shape of your trouser flap to the tie line. Then I mark 3 inches above it. That will be where your zip will stop, and 2 inches to get the shape of my crotch. Then I'm going to go ahead to mark 1 inch, 1 inch at the waist side to give it the shape that you're seeing, because your waist is not straight, it's always slant, and to follow the curve of your waist. So I ruled out the serve edge. I ruled it out. Then I went ahead to cut it off like you're seeing in the video. So make sure you cut it off so that you might not get confused why I'm doing your measurement. So you know that that part is, you don't really need it anymore. So that's what I'm doing there, so that I don't confuse you guys and go ahead to measure other parts for the trouser pattern. Please, this is the front part we are cutting, the front part of the trouser, the left side and the right side. That's what we're doing now. So I brought out the shape of the crotch with my armhole tool, then measure my tie line, which is 14. Then I get the midpoint. The midpoint of 14 is 7. So I mark 7 there at my thigh, 7 at my knee, calf, and then base of my trouser. So the reason why I get those midpoints is to get the middle of both sides of your trouser. So the measurement for my knee is 20, the measurement for my calf is 18, and the measurement for my base is 16. So 16 divided by 2 will give me 8. So the middle of 8 is 4. So I placed my tape rule in between that to give me 4 at both sides. Then I do the same thing for the calf. The calf is 18. Middle of it is 9. Divided is 4.5. Get 4.5 on both sides. The same thing for the calf, which is 20 divided by 2, which will give me 10. Then the middle of 10 is 5. 5 on both sides. So it's equal. Then I use my ruler to trace out the shape of my trouser like you're seeing. Then went ahead to use my hip cuff tool to get the shape of my trouser properly, the straight part that I'm looking for, like you're seeing here. If you don't have this tool just makes it easier for you to bring out the shape of your trouser rather than you free hand sketching your measurement. So I went ahead to cut out my front part of my trouser. Okay, so I'm done cutting my front pattern. So I marked that 2 inches from the waist. That is for the shape of my slant pocket. 2 inches there down to the 7.5 marked to indicate both front and back of the trouser. Then notch my where my zipper will stop. Then I removed one out of the front pattern so that I can use this one that I marked to draft my back trouser. So I went ahead to mark 2 inches seam allowance from the base, 2.5 at the knee line, then 3 inches at the thigh line. That is for the seam allowance. So I use my hip cuff to trace it out straight to the knee line and the thigh line like you're seeing in the video. It's quite easy because there's nothing much for you to do at the back pattern of a trouser. It's the front that is the main thing to draft. Why once you are done with that, the back is easier. At the waist, I added 2 3/4 up, then trace it down to the equally to the front pattern. Then I added 1/2 inch because I've added 1.5 to the front. 1/2 inch is what I'll add to the back. That's what is left. So it's 2 inches we use for seam allowance at that waist region to the hip so that everything when you sew it, it falls back to your original measurement. So I'm done cutting my front and back pattern, and this is it. So I went ahead to cut my pocket facing. So my pocket facing, this is how the shape of your pocket facing should look like. The length I use is 10.5. Then I curve it, and the width for it at the beginning of the pocket interfacing is 4 inches. That's what I use, so that it can come down below this length of your pocket on your trouser, and then it will pass the slant of 2 inches at the waist. Then I'm going to use this remaining parts for my back trouser interfacing of my back welt pockets interfacing. So I cut that one aside. That's what I'll use for it. Then went ahead to, I already have this my fly and fly shield pattern already. Instead of me cutting it, I don't have it, but I'm going to drop the formula or the pattern of how I do it later on my YouTube video, or and show you guys how to do it properly. So I went ahead to place my pattern on the material. Please do not double it, put it on one layer. Yes, because that is the only thing you need. You don't need double of it. So on one layer, place it on it. Once you're done placing it on it, then cut it out as a block. That's what I'm going to do. So I went ahead to cut it out as a block. Then get the actual shape of the both of them, both my fly and fly shield. Please make sure you cut exactly how the fly and fly shield is. Be careful while cutting it, because all these things matters a lot. If your length of your fly or fly should reduce it, it might affect it when you are sewing your zipper to the front of your trouser. So that is my fly and fly shield. Now I've cut them out, so I'm going to keep that aside. And yes, that is the end of the video. So if you want me to show you guys on how to properly sew this pants trouser from beginning to end, let me know in the comment section. And I'm glad you guys must have learned something today. If you have any question you want to ask, please put it in your comment below, and I'm going to read through it and answer your question. So subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on the notification button to get more videos from me. So would you try this technique?